Let's transition, gentlemen, to another pertinent point. And yesterday, the American ambassador, Meg Whitman, said the laws of privacy and the rule of law around rights of a private citizen need to be respected in democracies. This following a story that revealed how the security agencies have been colluding with telecommunication firms to irregularly access call data and location records that are used to track and capture suspects, put them in detention, with the American government now denouncing the abuse of mobile phone users' right to privacy. The telcos have been helping to cover, according to the paper investigation, cover up abductions, killings committed by rogue agencies, and there are many missing Kenyans. Council Harvey, certainly a big concern is it, given how this has led to public outrage over a number of Kenyans who are missing and some who are killed?
Well, the right to privacy is inherent to a human being. It is entrenched in the Bill of Rights. But that said and done, the need for government to have intelligence can also not be overemphasized. But there's a point in which we must draw the line. The power to spy has been abused considerably. Let's just pick an example. It has been abused to look for, trace, abduct, detain insignificant individuals like Aoko the Maverick. That's the anathema. If you are using this power for national security, it must be for national security. Spy for national security. And national security can only be national security. A threat to our defense forces, a threat to installations of government, a threat to what the government is doing, not the private affairs of individuals, not for facilitating the commission of crimes by agents of state. And to that extent, the government must be called out. And we must be saddened, because when this administration took over office, the president was very emphatic. My administration will not use the phones to spy on you. We will not listen and record your telephone conversations. But what are we doing? We are like that individual who has met a stray dog, gives it some food, domesticates it, and uses it. You get it? We found these abuses. Then instead of eradicating them, we've just embraced them. That is the problem. And there is no doubt whatsoever, the individuals who are abducted, detained, and some extrajudicially killed were victims of this misuse of spying on phone conversations. It's wrong. It must be stopped.
Yeah. And then, Council, how can this situation be addressed? Because the case of Boniface Mwangi, and you have mentioned Aoko Otieno, who is also known as Maverick on her X platforms, given her whereabouts, which is still unknown, Boniface Mwangi picked up from his house without charge released after a day in detention. Certainly, there are more than 130 Kenyans who are still missing. I'll come to the Turkish aspect of the 4 nationals who are deported, which is a violation of international law, because Kenya is a party to that. Given at the domestic level this happening, how can this be addressed then, given the rule of law and the constitution we have bestowed ourselves on?
Public uproar. This system is dysfunctional. It doesn't work. And let me just ask you a question. If you can trace, track, abduct, and detain Maverick Aoko, Boniface Mwangi, on the intelligence obtained by listening or monitoring the signals of their phones, how is it that you are unable to tell us the whereabouts of about 600, 1,000 people who have been missing? Of course, their phones are registered. And it's to that extent that we say this is being abused. And public uproar, public rage has always been the informant, the vigilant force ensuring that there is good administration. These people don't listen. They must be made to act.
Senator Eddie, it appears even in our contemporary Kenya, under the current constitution, the playbook of KANU of extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances seems not to have gone away.
Absolutely, and unfortunately so.
How can we fix it?
You know, it's unfortunate. You know, I didn't want to bring a rebuttal between me and Avi. Yeah. But it's unfortunate that Avi saw the current parliament as a parliament of baboons. I know you were saying that it was figurative and stuff, but it's serious to the extent that the number one stop house of the people and where the protection of the people's rights must be exemplified is parliament. Okay, and I indeed I agree that we have seen some complacency in some laws that have been passed in parliament, but by and large, I can tell you that it would be dishonest of Avi to put a blanket, a blanket judgment on all parliamentarians, because I've seen a number of sober parliamentarians who have constantly worked day and night to be able to fight for this individual and collective rights of the people within our borders, right? And I can tell you for a fact that for even minority side where I come from in parliament, has done a tremendous work in terms of pointing out the cases of abductions, pointing out the cases of human rights violation, and not only pointing out, even what is calling public outrage, to be able to go to the streets, to be able to fight for these rights. Some of the members of parliament that is calling baboons have actually fought for this very hard. I can't remember. Just wait.
It's not me. It's the president who said you guys are baboons.
You are enforcing it, and I took an offense on it, but I want to make it light because there are some more substantive issues to talk about here. But this idea of public outrage cannot just be amorphous, because the last time the public outrage was amorphous was the Gen Z movement, and therefore amorphous movements without leadership sometimes get attacked so easily that it's difficult to sustain them in terms of sustainable movements that then give you result. And those sustainable movements come from parliamentarians that you indicated as baboons. And the last time I saw Avi going to the street to do anything like a mass protest or a serious conversation, he ended up in parliament drinking tea with the speaker of the assembly. So it is important that parliamentarians go and be able to fight for these rights, because these rights cannot be overemphasized. And I can tell you that even yesterday, my Secretary General Edwin Sifuna brought into the House, rebutting the communication by the Speaker of the House, and brought the attention of the nation to a resolution that was made by the Senate of Kenya on the issues of abduction, on the issues of amnesty for those who were wrongfully arrested during protests of Gen Zs, on the issues of compensation to people who were affected by the Gen Z violence. I saw your station covering Andrew Chieng from Uyoma village in Siaya, who has been battling gunshots from the Gen Z movement. There are people who have been maimed by the government of the day in the course of protests and fighting for these rights. And therefore, we cannot allow, as a country, any attempt by the regime of the day or any attempt by the institutions of government to start stifling dissenting voices that are fighting for human rights. This is something we will not accept.
And Eddie, whilst you accept that, it doesn't have to take the American ambassador to point out this pertinent issue, is it? And therefore answers must be provided. For example, on the whereabouts of Aoko Otieno, Maverick Aoko. We live in a democracy. We may have fundamental differences, and we live in a free speech. You may have the right to be offended and the right not to be offended. And nobody bears the right to disappear anyone. How can she be accounted for, and the many other Kenyans who are still missing and their families languishing in anxiety?
I actually don't think that the American ambassador is the person who has been able to bring this to law. I think that there have been a lot of effort by people, and I've said about the minority side especially, right, as constantly fought these wars. But I think that there's a larger question of that we must fight. Number one is the issue of the telcos, right, and their complexity, complexity in terms of the idea that they can actually violate human rights by aiding those kind of abductions. I think the first thing is that people like us who believe in the rule of law, we must be able to take these telcos to court. And we must be able to seek and pursue the reason why they are allowing the use of their companies and grant unchecked access and unrestricted access to government to start violating this kind of law. So the telcos must be taken into account.
Do you know that in every telco there is a police station?
Yes, I know. But
what have you guys done as Parliament?
That's what I'm saying, that apart from, because the first thing is that there are laws that are established to deal with this kind of violations. Starting from Article 1 of the Constitution that talks about privacy, coming all the way to Data Protection Act that was put in 2019. There are a lot of regulations that have been put in place. And then we also had a data commission that was formed in 2020. So it is not lack of law, because the Parliament has done its work in terms of putting laws in place to be able to deal with these private issues. The teething problem is trailblazers like Avi that I want to invite, and other parliamentarians and other leaders, to now take the instruments of laws that have been put in place and be able to sanction the institutions that are violating them.
And then clearly we need answers around this council, because it's certainly the Independent Policing and Oversight Authority says there's no cooperation from police for us to proceed with cases that we're investigating. How then can that be addressed? How can the convoy of unmarked vehicles that trail Kenyans be addressed? How can the unidentified personnel from the security agencies who come to your house, knock on your door in the middle of the night and godly hours be addressed? Because certainly these are very glaring mistakes that can be fixed easily. And do you think they can be?
That is a lame lamentation from IPOA, that they cannot get cooperation from the police. Sorry, a majority of the police, and I must be specific in this case so that I'm not accused on the baboon analogy. A majority of policemen in Kenya are criminals in uniform. How do you expect cooperation from a criminal in uniform? You don't get it. That's why you're called an Independent Police Oversight Authority. You must exercise your authority independently. And it is a failing on the part of this authority, because the role bestowed upon it by the Constitution is enormous. And it was deliberate, because the people of Kenya and the drafters of the Constitution knew where we had come from. The police has always been abused by the executive to commit crimes. And that is why we needed an oversight authority. I do not know what should be done. I've figured out many options out of this problem. But I think the most appropriate solution, it is to have people with capacity head these authorities. You know, the other day, and this is just by way of analogy, the other day I spoke of having a permanent constitutional court constituted of 3 to 5 judges, as we have elsewhere. Because some of these problems are so weighty to be entrusted on the shoulders of one judge. The judge will either be compromised, he'll be purchased, he'll be threatened or coerced. It's obvious, it's expected. But you see, when you buffer that court with 3 individuals, then you have some weight with which these people can travel. Same with IPOA. We need credible people. You know, I'm not looking for a job, but if I was to be placed in that office, I will deal with these clowns, my friend. The lamentations that we hear day in, day out will not be there. We'll identify several policemen for action. You understand? And when you have cogent evidence against them, prosecute. Let there be an example set by 1, 2, or 3 policemen that will be used to deter similar action, and also to make it difficult for the executive to find availability in the police force for commission of crimes.
And does this then raise the moral... Senator, I'll come to you, because I also have your soundbite of what you said on Sunday.
Yes, yes.
So once that's ready, we'll be getting that
but I just want to add one thing. And I think that on protection of this violation of human rights is not just a one institution approach, because there are a number of vital institutions that we must ensure that function. And I talked about, for instance, the Data Commission. I think if you look at the functions and responsibilities bestowed upon the Data Commission in Kenya, is so serious that I think that they're not using it, right? Because if you look at I think it's section 25 of the Data Protections Act 2019 is very clear about the protection of individual data, the legislative mechanism that must be put in place to be able to protect that, and then that entire function that has been put under Section 5 of that article has been bestowed upon the Data Commission, to the extent that Data Commission can actually recommend and guard Kenyans on prosecution issues where data has been violated. Because the regulatory authority that has been bestowed upon the Data Commission in Kenya is not limited to a mere advice to government agencies. It's actually been given a prosecution power to the extent that, in coordination with people like IPOA, it can be able to actually bite. So these institutions exist. The question is, why are the people in those institutions not living by the laws that have been created for them?
They're not up to task.
And have been given the power to actually do it. So probably the Data Commission should be held strictly liable for this particular problem.
Yeah. Is it, in your case, from your understanding, a case of incapacitation of an existing capacity, self-incapacitation? I think
there are a number of problems. There could be issues of incompetency, but also there could be issues of compromise. You know, maybe compromise by the state, because if telcos can be compromised, and that's why I was recommending the issue of prosecution, the issue of going to seek prosecution on these telcos, starting with Safaricom. If possible, some of us legislators like us who like going to court over these issues of public interest will go to court and seek prosecution on officers who are dealing with data in Safaricom. We will go to court and seek prosecution on complacency, on people who are dealing with data regulation in Data Commission, because they have been given that power, and it's either they're incompetent or compromised by the state to be able to expose Kenyans to this kind of risks.
Yeah. And Councillor Harvey, given the moral authority question that arises out of here, certainly the president, visibly disturbed, on the 4th of January 2023 said he fired George Kinoti because of extrajudicial killings, abductions by the DCI, and the Rivayala questions. For the government today that he leads, it's a case of kicking the can down the road, is it? Nothing has changed.
Yeah, and kicking it with both feet. You're likely to fall down. And I don't know. I mean, and I say this helplessly because we worked so hard to put this government in place, both in court and in the public arena campaigning. Why must we just adopt the bad things we found in place? Can we just be good, even if it's for 5 years? We can't be good. Yeah, I don't know how to say it. You see, I speak the truth. I don't know how to say it. Why can't we just be good? We said we will not do what Uhuru Kenyatta and Karanja Kibicho and Fred Matiang'i did. Why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? Eddie, can you stop us from doing it?
We can't.
And you regret that this is happening?
You
You can't.
Let me. This is specifically to have.
Allow me to say this.
Yes.
Let's first get this soundbite.
I'm coming back to ask you.
The Senator Council attended a church service with the President in Moiben constituency, the county of Uasin Gishu, on Sunday, and in the presence of the President, here is what Senator Eddie Oketch said.
We have seen wonderful monuments crumbling down in different states across the world. And that is why, as a young person, when your language started in partnership with Baba Raila Amolo Odinga of national unity as a recipe for development in this country, and you prioritize that, I can assure you that even if you don't build roads for our country, even if you don't build this economy, but you leave us with a country that is united of one people, this country will stand stronger than any economy in the world. And therefore, I want to thank you for that unity and say that what our forefather Jomo Kenyatta said, that the responsibility of nationhood will be given to reliable custodians. Reliable custodians can only be reliable when they make hardest decisions in life. And we have seen you making the hardest decision, not to only support and give development to people who voted for you, but to bring this country together. I can tell you as a young person in ODM that we are out to build and to water that unity that you and Baba have brought together.
Senator, where is the line between good governance and national unity?
That's a very important question. There is no line.
You think the partnership between Odinga and the president will make the country united?
I must tell you that this is a general principle that I was very clear about. Mm-hmm. That whether you are in UDA or whether you are in ODM or whether you are in WIPA, this country must stand united. We are going to differ on different economic policies. We are going to differ on different, political ideologies. But when it comes to the question of national unity and peace and development have got no any thin line. And I want to be very clear that anybody who advances the idea of national unity is a friend of this nation. And the context of this conversation is in the pretext of what Harvey and his friends in UDA started the conversation of this question and this notion that is possible to build a country where there is this question of shareholding, where if you did not vote for a president or if you didn't vote for a governor, therefore you must be excluded from any development process. This is the context for which I'm talking for and I'm taking personal responsibility for. I don't think that any president, and this is something we started fighting even last year, that any president, once you have taken office and taken the oath of office, you take the oath of office to protect the entire country. People who voted for you and people who did not vote for you. Therefore, there's no any thin line in terms of national unity. You cannot say that because I am this regime of UDA, therefore I'm only going to serve people in UDA. And I think that on the question of national unity and on the question of peace, all the top political leaders are coherent on that together.
And how different will this partnership be from the Kenyatta-Odinga partnership?
No, I think this partnership on national unity is not partnership on them governing together. These are very different things, because ODM as a party is a minority party in government.
It was in the last case.
Okay, just wait. It's a minority party in government in the sense that our constitution, the way it is framed, and this is where people like Avi get it wrong, because this idea that we have got an opposition is not true. The way our constitution is framed currently is that we have got a government that is formed where we have got an executive, and then we have got a legislature, and the legislature is divided into minority versus majority. And the majority that is there then takes the role of running government. Minority then takes the role of being able to be a buffer where the government is going wrong. But Parliament as a whole has got a moral and constitutional responsibility to check on the executive. Are you getting that? So what is happening is that where we find ourselves today as a country, the biggest interest to that development has been voices that have been talking about tribal cards as a recipe of being able to divide development projects across country. And we have seen this even in the budgeting process, whereby you find that a member of parliament from Kikuyu, or a member of parliament from Kiaru, or a member of parliament from any other place where the government of the day or the ruling party is seated will have unprecedented amount of money put in budget going to their constituency rather than other constituencies.
Okay.
Now that doctored development that other people are not equal to get development is what has made this country not to be able to move forward.
Okay.
So on national unity,
yes.
On national unity, on distributive development to different communities, this is something that I believe as a person that we all hold dear.
Yeah.
But in terms of responsibility of running government, that is a UDA Kenya Kwanza agenda and not an ODM agenda. And in any case,
yes, Senator. Okay.
This is what I believe in personally, and it's not a position of the ODM party, because the position of the ODM party is articulated by the ODM leadership. I
ask you again, because you have gone off to a lovely diversion, because I need to bring in counsel. And it's a fundamental question you can answer in under 1 minute.
Yes.
At the doorsteps of Harambee House in March 2018, Kenyatta and Odinga said, never will this happen again.
Yes.
That was in the aftermath of the 2017 election.
Yes.
And now it seems you have said it's on the same. Tribalism, addressing the problems that underline or underpin our governance system. How is this different from what we had between Kenyatta and Odinga?
Number one, you remember that when the Kenyatta and Odinga engagement happened, number one, it was a goodwill to be able to enhance national unity. And I think that is what we are also seeing with the goodwill of Baba Raila Amolo Odinga to enhance national unity. There was no any document whatsoever or any people in ODM then and NASA then that joined the government of Uhuru Kenyatta, right? I think that the history can be able to verify me on that, right? Or vindicate me on that. That there was no any document signed or any partnership signed that made ODM or otherwise NASA enter government, but it was a goodwill to be able to enhance national unity. That is the same arrangement now, because there is no any document that ODM, and I'm a very senior ODM member, by the way, and a very senior Azimio member, being the fact that I sit in NEC of ODM, although I can still say that I don't speak on behalf of ODM, but I, as we, because we have got structures of people, our leadership that speak on behalf of ODM, but this is not an official position, but this is my own view. The thing that is happening right now is that there is no any documentation of Azimio or ODM that has put ODM in government. We are not in government, okay? But we as a people, and I as a senator, believe that where the president or Raila Amolo Odinga or Kalonzo Musyoka champions for peaceful coexistence in this country, or champions for unity in this country, where they champion for what I call distributive economic development, right? That's a principle that we must all abide with, even if we are not in government, the way we are not in government, because there's no any documentation that ODM has signed with the government of the day, or Azimio has signed with the government of the day to be in the government of the day.
Neither was their document the last time they met. Council, political insurance 2.0?
Yes, and just to pick from, and even before I delve into the real issue question, much respect for Senator Eddie Oketch. I've watched him grow in his career. I remember the first encounter was in a funeral in Karungo. Then you were in ANC, and you spoke very intelligibly. You've never disappointed in Senate. In fact, there's a majority of senators, including you, who are a great inspiration to us. In the National Assembly, I can only pick Dr. James Nikali and Crystal Asige. Very wonderful individuals there. Now let's interrogate this arrangement between President William Ruto and Right Honorable Raila Odinga. It's a bad arrangement. How does it compare to the arrangement with President Uhuru Kenyatta? Uhuru Kenyatta had a very elaborate arrangement with Raila Odinga. They were pulling a yoke of a load towards a particular destination. But these two individuals have decided to crossbreed a horse and a donkey, with the result that we'll have a mule. It is the end of the generation, and it's perilous. And this arrangement cannot be explained away in the manner in which the Honorable Senator is trying to do that. We don't have a document. It's like staying with a woman for 20 years, having 5 children, and say, we don't have a marriage certificate, so we're not married, we don't have a document. That's bullshit. It will not be entertained in a court of law, or even in a village baraza. What you guys have done, you have blurred the distinction between the opposition and government. And the result is, we will not have unity. Because you can't create unity by isolating a bloc associated with Rigathi Gachagua and incorporating a bloc associated with Raila Odinga. It's as simple as that. and it will be perilous. It is the breeding of the horse and the donkey.
Is it your understanding that in our current constitution there is opposition?
Yes, there is an opposition. And that's why the constitutional architecture and structure says Kenya will be a multi-party democracy. Deliberate multi-party democracy. And that is why we have the Political Parties Act. That's why we fund political parties. Why will we fund UDA and ODM as the parties in government and the parties in opposition, yet they are fused? And all the two parties are appointing people to the civil service and to the cabinet.
No,
there is
I don't think so.
It's as simple as that.
I don't think that ODM is appointing anybody in cabinet. But you see, the problem that I have usually is that if you get a naked man who is trying to give you a shirt or any cloth and they're naked, will you take it? Because that is what Avi is doing here. Right? Avi is naked and he's trying to give us some clothes.
I'm fully clothed.
He's trying to give us some clothes here. And I'm saying it in context of analogy because Avi was an architect of this government and an architect of the person who championed for Ruto. And I don't know why are you keep on bringing me people who had misjudgment in terms of bringing up a government that then they want me to sanitize. I don't get it. Because if Avi argues that the national government, the executive, should only be oversighted by members from the minority side, then it's wrong. That is not the architecture of our constitution.
It's the House.
The architecture of our constitution is that
it's the entire House.
The entire House of Parliament must be able to oversight the executive. So that if today Arion Cheriot, who is the minority leader of Senate, sees something wrong, majority of Senate sees something wrong in the executive, he should not cow to it. And this is what I believe in as a young person in Parliament, that we must make Parliament effective in taking care of oversight roles as far as the executive is concerned. But to the extent of ODM, I can assure you that the individuals who have gone to support government as experts are just that. ODM is still a party on its own, doing its own things, and is not in government as far as I'm concerned. But when it comes to principles of governance, national unity, for which I'm taking responsibility for what I said in Moiben, national unity is a common principle that Avi must champion for, I must champion for, Kalonzo must champion for, Raila Odinga must champion for, and the president must champion for. And all of us must be able to work together towards this common idea that development cannot be given to only those people who have been elected in majority side of government.
Point again. Let's sample the feedback briefly, Senator. And I take your point. And the hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Here is what you are saying. And we thank you for sending the same in. It's so disheartening to come to the grim reality that Kenyans unsafe in all spheres, from harsh economic times, unaffordable healthcare, and now to invasion of privacy by unauthorized spying on phones. We are not safe. And this is the final one from Gabi Wakasiaka. The courts are encouraging impunity and of the executive, the legislature is going forward. They will do things as they wish. I did not see the need for public participation when opinions of citizens are insignificant judiciary setting by President. And that is, these are some of the feedback. And thanks for making your comments here on the broadcast. We thank you for your presence here, as well to that of Council Nelson Havi, the 49th President of the Law Society of Kenya, and Senator Eddie Okech. Lovely having you here, gentlemen, and we'll see you some other time.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
And up next is Health and Lifestyle. Safina Chiengoma will be talking to the Social Health Authority Chairperson, Dr. Abdi Mohamed, and the Director General of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Patrick Amoth, who will be here to talk about the transition to the new health social scheme here that was rolled out on the 1st of October. We'll see you tomorrow morning here on the broadcast. Till then, good morning.
You know, I've invested more.